Rolling.
I would like to take a moment to honor our fallen soldiers on the front lines in algebra class this week, as 19 children were mowed down along with 2 teachers in the name of supporting our right to bear arms. So, really want to tip our caps to those troops. We support the troops here. Dick Francisco is joining me this week. We're going to talk about this incident and more on the Catch the Sky podcast. So welcome in, Dick.
Oh, thanks, T, for that intro that was one-sided and very, very emotionally appealing, but not to me. Don't get me wrong. That sounded terrible. I'm not over here super interested in kids getting mowed down in algebra class, but I'm pretty sure I feel like this debate seems to be polarized where if I support guns, I must support children being killed. I'm here to dispel that.
We shall see. If you care to weigh in on this topic, you can find us on Twitter at I'm Dick Francisco or at CTS Terry. You can find Dick on Instagram at the Dick Francisco. And you may find us on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts by searching for the Catch the Sky podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to get weekly ad-free content just like this. Dick. Kids taking bullets. Old black people taking bullets. People just trying to go to church, trying to go to their synagogues, taking bullets in Pittsburgh, Southern Cali, and now again in Texas. When's it going to stop? It'd be interesting. I wonder if we should have done that in prep for this episode. We should have counted the number of soldiers that died over in the Middle East over the last couple of years and racked it up next to mass shooting victims in this country and seen which was greater.
Yeah, I think we could spend a lot of time with just data and analytics that continue to point to how guns continue to be involved in violence against humans by other humans. But I think there's
I think that's why they were invented.
Here.
That's, why they were made.
And I think we can come back to the notion of the invention from a protection standpoint. I think there's a lot of things that were invented for our protection. This roof over my head, in fact, I'm coming to you live from the Dick Francisco studio here in Phoenix, Arizona. Mm-hmm. The roof over my head, roofs in general on shelters were intentionally, I think, invented for my safety and survival as a resource. And so I'm not here to immediately hate on all things that were invented to protect me. This roof in this building is protecting me from that very hot sun out there. And so I can't immediately then go, oh, weaponry, knives and guns and swords and technology and all these things that are there that have been invented for the intention of protection, even if we have misused them as humans. I'm not blaming the gun at this point. Now, do I believe that there should be some level of regulation because we as humans have proven that we continue to make poor choices? Yes, but is that not across the board with plenty of things that need to be regulated?
Let me put it this way, Dick. First of all, my existence is the tiniest fraction of a grain of sand in the desert that is human existence. And I'm not going to survive forever. Secondly, when I see a guy walking down the block from the ice cream stand where I'm just trying to get a cone with my dog, and he's decked out in bulletproof armor and carrying a rifle, I'm going straight
Yeah.
home. I'm not going to take a seat and enjoy my cone anymore. I'm going to go home
I
and be
100%
disappointed that I can't enjoy the one fucking day this week that's actually going to be sunny because some fucking prick wants to walk around and act like a fucking tough guy.
Yeah, and I just think
He's
that
the
guy
threat.
is still gonna be a prick whether you put a gun in his hand or not, and you could put anything else in his hand.
Well,
and so here's my
cool.
thing.
That's fine. I'm not
'cause we
concerned
wanted to
about my
come back to-
safety
we
down the
wanted to come
block.
back to we wanted to come back to data and analytics because
He
that's
can
what
have
we
a
were just
knife.
talking about.
I'm not concerned for him hitting me with a knife from down the street. I'm
You
pretty
should
sure.
be. Knife attacks are serious.
Well, but I'm pretty
and
sure he's not
people
going
are crazy when they use a knife.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to see him coming, and I've also got Frank.
Not necessarily.
Well, I've got eyes on him
Hence
because
the
he's
term "stabbed in the back." T.
Jesus, Frank's got my back. Frank's got my back.
Oh, I hope so for both your sakes. So here's what I'll say. Our neighbors to the north of us, so our neighbor being Canada, in fact, extra close to you, guns are not illegal in Canada. There is such thing as firearm ownership in Canada, right? And when you look at what their firearm-related death rate per 100,000 population per year is, it's 0. Why is that? In 2022, literally just mere feet. I think, circa Sarah Palin, you can see Canada from your fucking porch. T.
Yeah.
He's pretty close. Why is there 0 firearm-related deaths in that country, yet they can still have firearm ownership in that country? Is that not proof that we have the capability? We just continue to fail in this country.
Well, Dick, I'm so glad that you asked. In Canada, they have much more extensive background checks, and you have to wait a minimum of 28 days before being granted a certificate to own a firearm. In addition to that, you have to pass a training course, and they usually request a third-party reference. And they have a ban on rifles, automatic weapons, modified handguns, things like that. And their gun lobbies are just so much weaker. So you look at the United States and you get a quick FBI background check done at the time of purchase that usually only takes a few minutes. And we have the NRA, which has like 5 million plus members and is funding like God knows how many people in the fucking government. God, this country's terrible sometimes. But
Well, it's not about the country being terrible. I think it's about us evaluating and asking the question. I don't have the answer to that because I don't want us to blame the gun, because that's where I'm coming from in this debate, is because I'm pretty sure we're having a debate right now. We didn't even get to do the intro. T.
Let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah, because we are
Fucking
ready.
glove
'Cause
up.
I know that we have some slightly differing opinions when it comes to the actual, like a handgun or a firearm
in
itself.
this corner,
However,
somebody concerned that 19 children and 2 adults were killed in Uvalde, Mexico, or in Uvalde, Texas. Jesus Christ.
it feels like
I got Mexico on the mind, right?
I know, which we'll get into Mexico in a second.
You can
know
tell
they
us
won't let
about
you bring
Mexico.
in-
Well,
They won't let you bring firearms there.
we'll get into the serious stuff first, and then we'll end this episode on on a high note.
And it's not that you can't bring firearms there, but Mexico's really, if anything you're going to bring across the border, don't bring your guns.
Yeah.
Bad idea. No, I understand in your corner, yes. And I will say in this corner, equally somebody very, very disturbed, incredibly disturbed by the actions of one human being, American, amongst other human beings, children especially. And I'm incredibly saddened. I'm frustrated. I might even be equally, if not more, frustrated as someone who has an appreciation for firearms for lots of reasons, because this consistently and continues to then drive a conversation, and understandably so, to a place that says we need to figure this out so that innocent people stop dying. So in this way, especially, and it makes us immediately feel like we need to crack down on the firearms, because if you then removed firearms, great, then there wouldn't be any more death by firearms. And you'd have probably less carnage if somebody took a knife. Although, go look it up in China. They're having this happen in schools, these school stabbings where 16, 17, 18 people are dying in school stabbings. It's a wild thing. Nonetheless, the issue to me is the violence amongst society as to people victimizing each other.
There's too many people on this fucking planet.
I get how if a gun wasn't available, then this child committing a crime on other children, yes, I understand he was 18, would be different. But at the end of the day, I'm still trying to bring it back to what it is that's driving this type of violence in this country versus the firearm itself, because I have so many reasons why guns of many types of guns can serve a value and a benefit to us as humans.
We don't value life in this country. We don't respect one another. It's not a priority because we just militarize everything.
Do we think eradicating guns makes us respect each other? No, it just removes yet another way that we disrespect each other. But don't worry, text messaging and social media is still out there for us to bully each other. And kids aren't getting guns in their hands usually by 7 or 8 years old. Most of them aren't. But they're able to force each other into mental illness, and then they're taking their own lives. Suicide's at an all-time high because of bullying on social media for our 7, 8, and 9-year-olds. They don't even need guns. So again, we're not right now then trying to solve the problem of hurting each other. We're just trying to eliminate guns from one of the resources to hurt each other. Because you have to admit that if guns were eradicated, we'd find some other weaponry, because the first thing we're going to resort to isn't like, well, I don't have a gun.
Yeah, everybody's going to go get a crossbow.
I'm going to use my good old fist.
Yeah, everybody's going to get crossbows. It's going to be
okay,
fucking
so then if everyone
like The
got
Walking
crossbows, Dead. Right, if everyone got crossbows and then started using crossbows, and then there were crossbow shootings, understanding there would be less victims, would we not still be outraged that there was a victim? Because I really think we need to be clear here that the number 19 and 21 total, I believe it was, if not more, victims, one victim would have been too many. Like, you can't look at that and go, well, I only care because there's 19. No, we would have cared if it was just one of those children.
Yeah.
And so a crossbow will still take out one of those children. And so I think it's unfair for us to suggest that get rid of guns, then you only have one child dead from a crossbow, and we still didn't resolve the problem, which is, why is somebody going to school with a crossbow? And that's the problem.
Yeah, because
that's
as humans, we have
firearms.
We have an inherent disposition towards violence.
Yes.
Yeah. So can we just
combat that?
Yeah. So can we just start getting rid of the tools to kill each other? The only way that we're going to train ourselves, because clearly we're not fucking evolved enough, so we just need to fucking.
But our very hands are killers. Our very hands are killers.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stop a child from going and strangling another child to death at school, for instance.
Right.
Or an adult from strangling. So,
but if we get to a world,
eradicate weaponry, because we're born with our own weapons. How do we?
To a world where only people are dying by strangulation or fucking some other blunt force trauma, then...
But everything's a weapon. I can throw a chair.
Exactly. That's
I
why
can't
I
get
said
rid of chairs.
Blunt force trauma.
Yeah.
I specify
so
blunt force
everything's a weapon. So how do we stop people from wanting to commit violence on each other? That's the question. Because you're never going to eradicate all of the resources that people are turning into violent objects. Because protection is different than enacting violence on somebody else. I believe in protection. I seek out protection for myself because we live in a crazy world. And that's not just humans.
Well, we just had more balance.
Last night I encountered 6 coyotes. They were super chill. And I might have been a little elevated. And I might have been really interested in petting them. I did not. But the night before, I ran into two rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
And so I am not worried about humans, nor was I worried about these creatures. But nonetheless, my entire mindset as a human being flipped into my survival protection mindset. Everything was about, how do I protect myself? If this coyote comes after me because I wasn't carrying a gun, what am I going to do? right? So I'm eyeing those things that could immediately be weaponry.
Yeah, I understand that. We live
because I'm not barehanding a coyote at that point. It's just not happening.
like
no matter what, my brain is always going to look around me and my surroundings to find out what I can use to protect myself from whatever. The sun, I'm gonna put a hat on or cover up my body. A coyote might try to throw a rock at it. What a bad idea. That snake, definitely gonna smack it upside the head with a rock because I didn't have a gun to shoot it. I shouldn't shoot a rattlesnake, but point being is our brains are wired to think that way. And I don't think you're ever going to get that out of a human for protection. It's when we have evolved. Yes, I know you hate that word for this. When our brains have evolved to create choices and the allowance of choices. And so then we make terrible choices, which is to inflict violence on people for one reason or another.
We just need to realize that we're insignificant. Our fucking lives are temporary anyway. We're all going to fucking die. You know what I'm saying? So this whole fucking survivalist fucking
don't
notion.
Take away my guns because guns are great.
This whole survivalist notion, like we all die. I understand prolonging, our lives and everything like that, but like we just need to get to a point where we need to be more concerned about the progression of our species and realize that our time here is limited.
And then we could appreciate guns together and realize how they make me smarter and they make me more.
Instead of you wasting that time appreciating weapons and tools of destruction, we could just appreciate like learning how to fucking get out of the solar system and actually harness the power of the sun instead of fucking
but I don't think
burning up all the fucking dinosaurs.
On that. Well, you're worried about that.
But we could all be focused on that, or some of us could be focused on jerking off.
You're worried about that. Some people are jerking off. You're worried about getting out of the solar system, and I'm worried about providing the best food source for us to stay healthy, keep trying to get out of the solar system.
Look at that.
Therefore, let me keep my guns so that I can keep feeding you the greatest meat you've ever fucking eaten, bro.
You don't need the guns for that. You know that humans conquered this planet's food chain long before the invention of guns, and you know that they have fucking tools for slaughtering those animals. Or if you want to get just real old fashioned,
I'm not using a gun to slaughter an
animal.
Well,
then what do you need the fucking exactly? What do you need the gun for?
And you can tell me that there's other things to hunt with, but that comes back to weaponry. So I don't understand why we're upset about a gun versus a bow. People are still going to die because they exist. And again, 1 death versus 19 deaths, they all matter to me.
Right,
and
but
so why would I eradicate guns if I'm not eradicating the problem?
It's the same
the problem is people misusing the resources and tools we create. More people arguably are getting fucking mental illness and dying because of the technologies that we're creating well before I would suggest that like guns are the primary issue. Instead, let's harness them. Let's harness and be smarter about the things that we have.
So
I'm going to start us a fucking police conversation right about now.
So
about
this is like the autonomous
smart
car.
policing and why police are important.
This is the autonomous car situation that you should be familiar with. So one person dies because they're fucking around behind some bushes and want to fucking jump out in front of a fucking autonomous vehicle. Right. Okay. One person dying. Let's just get real crazy and round it up to, let's say, 20,000 people dying per year in autonomous vehicle accidents. You want to know what that would be? Over a 50% reduction in automobile deaths. Some might say that's an improvement, Dick. Some would say that they would rather have...
If we play the numbers game, sure.
Yeah, 20,000 people.
If we play the pure numbers game, sure. But when it comes back to this discussion about inflicting violence on each other,
we're trying to reduce it.
But we're not getting to the root cause of it. So anytime we waste all of our time on gun control,
the root cause of it is the selfishness of humanity that leads to kings, billionaires, oligarchs, hoarding the bulk resources of this planet.
No, the root cause of that's not what makes an 18-year-old go and pick up a gun and shoot somebody. That 18-year-old isn't shooting somebody because that gun exists.
He's in a stressed out situation. He's troubled.
18-year-old is and why is that 18-year-old troubled?
Probably because
why is that 18-year-old troubled? What's troubling that 18-year-old?
There's a number of things, but limited access to resources.
And it isn't the existence of a gun, though, is all I'm trying to say. And so when we focus all of our resources and our efforts on the fact that that gun exists, I'm not telling you that if you got rid of guns, you'd have less gun deaths. Like, yes, obviously, there would be less firearm-related deaths if you got rid of guns. That is a fact.
Less
Absolutely.
deaths overall.
But what you didn't resolve, was the problem at the core, which is why humans are still trying to harm each other. Because of what? And then we focused all our resources, and no one is then focused on how do we actually help humans be better humans?
How do you get there if you literally can't even finish burying the dead from the last mass shooting, and you already have your next one?
Because we're going to suggest that all these guns around is just making it too hard. Like Marilyn Manson and Eminem are the reason school shootings happen, because it's just too hard to avoid when the music is there.
Everybody,
MGK is probably to blame too.
They need to chill out.
How am I supposed to possibly help all these kids when just all these temptations are all around?
Pretty much.
MGK, Machine Gun Kelly.
Yeah, because he's spitting hella fast lyrics.
How are you so against guns and MGK is like your fave?
Because he's spitting hella fast lyrics, all right?
But his fucking name, bro. His fucking name,
is Colson Baker.
And you don't think that MGK and kids hearing Machine Gun Kelly doesn't make them go, you know what?
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't thinking about machine guns before, but
no,
now
I know.
am.
There's certain songs that I am not a huge
I'm not
advocate
talking about
of.
the songs. I'm talking about his name in general.
His name is not great. Does not help the cause either.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying. I think that there are ways for us to combat equally so then, because I'm saying like, okay, so I said to you, school shootings. If we had, this is something that in a particular city or 10 here in the Valley does, more than 10 probably, SROs. So those are called school resource officers. I grew up, and I'm old, I grew up, at least older than you, with a police officer in my high school.
Nope.
And
Lame.
then in my grade school, after I got out of grade school, it was shortly thereafter that I know that a police officer was put in my grade school as well. So there was a single officer every day. Super cool. And one, it created a great relationship between kids and police because it's in a very different setting than how they're normally seeing them. Mm. And I went to schools that were in, lower socioeconomic areas. And so all the more reason to build that relationship. But even in the rich parts of town, like, it's still important to understand and value this as a resource, right? So police officers are in school. They're armed.
Cool.
You get to learn about them. You get to learn them. You get to know them. And so they're in the schools, and there is a level of deterrence that comes from that. And if something were to happen, and they are a good SRO, it will minimize crime taking place in that school. It 100% will. It just will. You will not see a massacre when an SRO is doing their job right and doesn't get scared like a mall cop, right? And so we can talk about this resourcing component, but you could just go get rid of guns, right? Go try that. We're going to find something else as humans. We're going to find something else. We're going to continue to find something else. We're going to go read fucking Wikipedia, realize that in China, you can still stab 18 people in a classroom with a knife too and get away with it somehow. Again, I still have plenty of questions, but it's happened, especially grade school. Or we can start taking the resources that we have and getting multiple benefits out of it while we start to evaluate the mental health realities of all of these situations. So when you start building these beneficial relationships, you know what's happening in our schools that have SROs? They start to get to know these kids, and they start to see when things are off. They start to be the ones who foil the plan before it happens because they know that a kid is troubled or a kid's having a situation. And well before that manifesto is found after they've massacred 19 fucking kids or 18 fucking kids.
Just like that kid that got called into the principal's office and he had the gun in his book bag and they didn't decide to check it while his parents were there. And then they just decided to let him go. They noticed something was off, but they didn't check. And
but you know who's trained to think about things like that and see things like that? We train our police officers. We train for that, to pick up on things. And yet we want to villainize that. But like the reality is at first I definitely was 100% against this concept of that, like you said, militarizing or putting police in a school where like that feels very anti-education and feels very militant. And now we're in a police state, right? But if we can create a community engagement, if you create a community engagement and get past the fact that those people, those men and women who are in uniform and wearing all those weapons are just integrating into their communities and being there right in school with your children, right? Because kids nowadays, when they're going back home with their list of school supply items, those effing like shields that they have to put in their fucking backpacks are on the list of things for parents to buy these days to stick in their backpacks.
Yeah,
if there's a school shooting. That's some shit, T.
Yeah, it's military. Yeah,
shit.
this is what we get when we normalize militarization of a place that's supposed to be safe.
But we immediately think that putting, say, police in our schools is doing that. We have the opportunity to not see it that way. Or we can just go get rid of all the guns. I'm not saying I want teachers, because that was a big deal in Arizona. We went through a whole debate here as to whether teachers should be allowed to bring guns into the classroom. Teachers with guns. It was a huge thing. It was about, I'd say 15, 16 years ago maybe now, as to whether they should be armed or not. And, the debate went back and forth here in Arizona. And really, I think that's where you find that happy medium. Do you think every teacher needs to be fucking carrying a gun? I'm not here to say they should or shouldn't be. What I'm here to say is I think we've found an option relative to being able to use those resources that builds community with our police department when you think of community policing, and putting them in the schools where it normalizes that and gives an outlet for kids to become friendly and a place to communicate about their troubles versus acknowledging that. And I'm not saying it stops everything, right? I went to a school that had a police officer in there, and I still had a friend get stabbed. Our gym teacher caught him, Mr. Norman. Well done, Mr. Norman.
Nice work, Mr. Norman.
Sorry, Mike Daniels, for getting stabbed in the hallway at school, but he lived. It's fine. Mr. Norman chased him down. Mr. Norman was a perv, too, but Mr. Norman also chased him down. Where our SRO was, look, I said good SROs, not bad resource officers. So long ago. But no, this is where I'm going to continue to argue that firearms have proven not to be the problem when you look at countries that have them, that do have federal regulations.
So you want to know what usually happens?
Also don't have deaths.
You want to know what usually happens in these situations where we up the militarization and make the people feel like they're more imprisoned? Usually in all these situations, from what I've perceived, they tend to, like in all the dramas that I've seen, which definitely don't have any impact on, where we get these ideas from. Like, you don't think it's possible that at some point one of these weapons that is now in the school, in the line of sight of these children every day, doesn't somehow fall into the wrong hands?
What do you mean? Like with a police officer?
Police officer, teacher, or otherwise.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that was really the argument in general with teachers carrying guns, was just that lack of oversight. I think that's where, I think we as humans have to acknowledge that role that public safety plays, no different than trusting a police officer. And I understand that. They've given us plenty of reasons, over the course of history and time, that individual officers have degraded trust at any given point in other officers.
Because
think of how difficult that must be to be a solid officer and have a fellow officer misbehave, and that fucks up trust, right? No different than firefighters. And so we trust that when our houses start on fire or something starts on fire, firefighters are going to show up and know how to put out that fire. We don't question that. We don't question that at all. And so I think it's the same with putting a police officer versus a teacher with a gun. Firefighters are trained to put out fires. Police officers are trained to de-escalate those situations and utilize the weapons that they have on them appropriately. When we see things not work out the way they're supposed to, obviously it degrades trust. But I think that's for us as a community to acknowledge and really have that conversation. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I'm not expecting my teachers to be carrying guns. Yeah. Like, it's just not. I expect them to be carrying an apple and, like a ruler to hit the chalkboard with.
Right.
And so I'm not over here advocating for teachers all carrying guns because I think you're right. I think that starts to create a liability.
Just the officer that has a gun on him.
Yeah.
That me as a student, I can at some point during the day procure, like you said, everything's a weapon. I can procure something during the day, sneak up on him, stab him in the back, and now boom, I've got a free gun, and now I can commit my mass shooting.
Have you ever tried to stab an officer that's wearing a bulletproof vest in the back with something you procured?
Let's try. All right, so that was we're using the phrase there, stabbed in the back. How about stabbed in the stabbed in? Yeah, right. Yeah, because I'm bringing that back. But no, I being a smart individual. And maybe I shouldn't admit these things because sometimes
under 18 smart individual, you're taking out your SRO officer and stealing his gun.
Sometimes I feel like I shouldn't, because all right. So here I'm again prefacing myself like I usually do.
Yeah.
The people that wrote Saw, everybody applauds that, like, they're, oh my God, these creative masterminds, like they thought up all this fucked up shit. You know what I'm saying? And yet an individual, like say a student in high school, you don't think that this motherfucker doesn't know how to go for the jugular, especially one that maybe is more affluent in hunting or something like that? This motherfucker's going to fucking slit your throat, and then boom, school shootings on, bitches. Don't even have to touch my dad's gun. You brought one right to me, you dumb fucks.
How many of those kids do
you
believe are out there? Considering I have yet to hear any story ever of an SRO officer being taken down by not only one, but even a mob of students and having his or her gun taken from
guess
them
what?
And used in a school shooting.
Here's my response to that.
The only time that's going to happen is when you remove fucking guns from everybody and the only one they can get is from the SRO. To make that a more valuable gun.
Yeah, right. Here's the response to that. I was driving a guy around and he said, up until the mid-90s, kids getting shot in school wasn't a thing. Dick. Right. So yeah. So maybe
it was bomb threats and stabbings.
Maybe SROs.
My experience. And chairs being thrown.
Maybe SROs weren't getting stabbed in the neck because there weren't SROs all over the place, because there weren't school shootings all over the place. So now that they're everywhere
for 20 plus years.
Yeah, and now that they're everywhere, and now that they're just going to keep escalating, and everybody's going to keep getting more and more pissed off, it's only a matter of time.
So there's a whole coup that's thrown on an SRO.
And they're going to listen to this episode, and that's what's going to happen. And then we're going to get shut down for that.
Here's the deal, T. Like, I'm going to apologize in advance to the victims of that shooting right now. But I'm also going to acknowledge that, like, wow, we have listeners. Unbelievable. I'm going to feel a little responsible, but I'm also going to come back to, I still don't think we're the problem. Catch This Guy podcast doesn't kill people. People kill people. Right? At the end of the day, that's how it works.
And I understand.
Guns don't kill people. People kill people.
And for me, it's about reducing the destruction, right? It's the same reason that I want autonomous vehicles.
But that's such a slippery slope. I could get rid of everything to reduce destruction.
Yeah, and then we're back to just stabbing each other with swords and hand-to-hand combat.
But those are destructive. So why are those allowed?
Because they're less destructive. They're the least destructive.
So we're okay with maintaining the fact that we're destructive. We're just fucking chimps and gorillas that are going to be destructive no matter what. Or toddlers. We just have to then be put in cages.
Basically, until we perfect this
Canada?
Until
we're Canada, because Canada can do it. 2020, yes, there was a massacre that happened in Nova Scotia. But let us be clear that was, again, while we care about every victim, while we care about the victims, the reality is that it's not as prevalent in that country as it is in other places. And I'm only using Canada because it's literally right across the border. It's literally right across the border. What makes that human any different than the human in the United States? And yet we're over here ready to get rid of everything we have that would make these incidences more possible. I was like, I don't know why we're not getting rid of social media. I don't know why we're not getting rid of emails and texts, because all of this technology has also been a way that has been able to promote these things. Do you know how many? Do you know how many shootings? Do you know how many shootings are put on and terrible shit like this is put on Facebook fucking Live?
Oh yeah,
Instagram Live.
Wonderful.
Like, it's just another outlet because these kids, whatever it is that they're seeking, this relevancy or otherwise, you created the outlet for the relevancy.
We
if the
really
relevancy
peaked in the
isn't there,
90s.
does it matter? Does it really matter to shoot them?
We really peaked.
Not
in
if
the
people
90s.
aren't going to see it.
Before all this email.
You were born in the 90s, weren't you?
1990.
Ooh, tea.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So
I get the best of it.
Oh, but I grew up in it. It was fucking fantastic. I got all of it for just face first. Like, my first memories were fucking like.
You got it face first.
Yeah.
I like it.
The fucking internet. Fucking the Spice Girls.
I got to like at least just dip my toe into it and then dance through it.
Yeah.
Which was great.
But
The Spice Girls.
yeah. Oh, and Columbine. Yeah, that was a good one, right? That's what really kicked this whole thing off. So
I feel like we can't have this story without having a discussion that I want your feedback on, and it's a story that involves Safe. Can I tell it?
Sure.
Considering the fact that we don't have listeners, I'm going to tell it, and then you tell me how you feel about this story and if it was disrespectful.
Respectful or disrespectful? Go.
Yeah.
New game on the show. New segment.
Yeah. Respectful or disrespectful? We have been looking for a segment. This is a good one. Right? Respectful or disrespectful? Okay. So this was mid-2000s. Let's put it out there. And I had recently met Safe. And we, amongst some of our peers at the university, all were taking a trip to Denver, a work trip, school work trip. And naturally, Columbine was something that was really impactful for us in our age range, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of that like school shooting, whoa, what happened? We watched it on the news. It was pretty jarring for that to happen because let's not forget, obviously school shootings were happening at the university level prior to that, but this was really where it was getting down into that, like we were all just in high school before and we knew those kids in trench coats. And so, and each one of us had our own high school experience that like some more violent than others. And so nonetheless, it impacted us all. And Safe, the history buff that he is, always interested in going back to the site of things. And I won't say that I'm not, per se. Mount Carmel in Waco. Tried to find that. Nobody wants to tell you where that is. Tiananmen Square in China. Found that, finally. So we are on our way to Denver. We're all driving in a car. And we're a little early for what we need to be there. We come in the night before. And the map would suggest to us, we're using an atlas, I believe. I'm going to say that anyways. That's how my memory recalls it. That Littleton, Colorado is right there near Denver. Not far. It's like a suburb. And it's late. And we all say, you know, all of us in this car were impacted by Columbine. I feel like we should go see the scene of this, right? Now, let's be clear. Columbine is still a high school, still a functioning place. It didn't board up and turn into a memorial by any means. Right. We can't quite find it because I think we're operating on an atlas because not sure how prevalent these smartphones were at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so we stop at a McDonald's. We find our way to Littleton. We find a McDonald's. Go into McDonald's. I remember taking a piss there, if I recall correctly. And I believe Safe goes and inquires which way to Columbine. Yeah, they were not super interested in talking about it, if I recall correctly.
No.
He can come back and fact check that. But it really seemed a little like off-putting that we were like, as tourists coming to see the scene of this school shooting. Nonetheless, you know, a little take a few lefts, take a few rights were given to us. We followed such directions and eventually stumbled upon Columbine, the high school, late at night. We definitely parked the car, definitely got out of the car, definitely walked around, if I recall correctly, and went up to the school. Again, Safe's going to have to correct this record for me. But nonetheless, we then all felt the question after if what we had just done, looking in the windows of the library kind of thing in the cafeteria, was disrespectful. And I kind of want your take on that, because any one of these schools where these things have happened that were impactful to other people that weren't there, but we heard about them, and then going back to the scene of the crime.
Yeah, I already have your answer. Yep, I already got your answer, because my bitch ass.
Respectful or disrespectful?
Disrespectful. My bitch ass fucking took sand from fucking Normandy, and I still have it in the fucking bag that I put it in the day I fucking took it. And I have to fucking go back.
That's disrespectful.
I gotta go back and put it back. Yes, because somebody.
Disrespectful.
Somebody's fucking blood and last moments are soaked into that.
Let us be
sand.
clear. As far as I know, nobody took anything from the scene.
Right. So I'm saying yes. I'm saying in the
Normandy case,
In
disrespectful. Okay,
your
in
case,
the Columbine case,
in your case, yeah, I'm still kind of
also disrespectful.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
Because like, there's not like because you're going to this like. I always go back to the scene of the Twin Towers in 9/11. I'm always bringing it back to 9/11.
Yeah. Okay, yep.
But there's memorial sites there. You know what I'm saying?
Created for that, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but there were people still that went back to the ground zero before they did that. There were a lot of people that did that before that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's the same with like Gettysburg and all this stuff. Like, I've never had any attraction to going and seeing where a bunch of people died. You know what I'm saying? Like, just let them rest. You know what I'm saying? Like, if there is any higher power, if there is any afterlife, if there is anything, just let them fucking rest. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't gotta go there.
Does intent and like connection matter? So maybe let me break down intent first. Like, intent of going because it was such an impactful experience, you wanted to be respectful. And then if that's a no-go,
but if you wanted to be respectful, you could have just, been respectful from a distance, right?
Sure. And so I can respect that. Then if you had some level of connection there, like whether you had a family member or you went to school there or something that literally like directly connected you, is that a pass to be allowed to do that because of the the connection, right? Yeah. That I feel.
Like if you had a friend that died in 9/11, you know what I'm saying? Then because it's like going to visit, similar to a gravesite.
Yes.
I compare it to a gravesite.
Didn't, and you're just going from and I would say this, we have to own that reality that we were, as much as we might be history buffs, we were also tourists.
I think it's more. Oh man, it's tough. Like, it depends, I guess. Because I think about like the Kent State Massacre, the Ludlow Massacre. These instances where our government went ahead and killed people. Check out episode 71. And in those instances, I believe again that there's memorials to those people. So you're not just going and just checking out like a murder scene. That's where I feel like it's a fine line to draw, right? But
what I would say is this still all comes back to the decency of human beings, though. And I think this is where we started our episode, knowing that we have the capacity to be decent human beings. We have the choice to be decent human beings. We can choose to be indecent human beings and do terrible, terrible things and use guns or other things to kill people. And we have the choice not to do that. And I feel like I want to appeal to our listeners to just don't shoot each other. Like, please.
Right.
Like, at least try not to, right? Accidents happen.
The point that I'll make,
try not to.
Right. The point that I'll make though is that people, and especially today, they instigate each other and want to piss each other off so much. I can talk so much shit, and
I know.
So it's.
And so far, I haven't shot you, T.
Right. Well, that's because I haven't really tried to piss you off though. So if I like
on the next episode of Touch the Sky,
because he
Dick
really
brings her
pissed
gun,
me.
and T tries to piss her off. Just kidding. I'm 100% kidding.
But I'm. My point is, anybody can have a bad day or has a breaking point.
Right.
And so with that in mind, I think it's, again, we're just as much as I'm hoping for this utopia that's never going to happen where
Sure.
we're, only strangling each other for murder and sexual pleasure.
Love that your utopia is that we're just strangling each other for murder or sexual pleasure. Fuck guns and knives. Man, T's utopia. I love it.
But on the
I want to
flip
call
side,
it the utopian strangle.
Jesus Christ.
That would be your name. Oh my God, if you became a serial killer, the utopian strangler.
I'm just trying to make a better world.
I don't think you fucking understand.
I'm making a better world, and
I
you don't
refuse
belong
to use
in
a
it.
gun, bitch.
And you don't belong in it.
But I'm fucking pissed. I'm going to strangle you to death because this is utopia.
This is terrible. It feels so good.
Oh my God, I'm so
it's
sorry.
Not going to.
How did it take us this long to degrade an episode? Wow, normally it
Jesus.
takes us less time.
But on the other side of that,
Yeah.
I think it's just as ignorant to believe that we live in a world where we have all these responsible gun owners, because everybody
Right.
has a fucking point. Like, that's where I'm worried that we haven't evolved. We've evolved to fucking blow up our entire planet. We never fucking needed that fucking kind of capacity. All right. We don't need a fucking
sure.
Death Star. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
What the
Right.
fuck is
I
this
hear
shit?
you.
Like,
Yeah.
let's reel it in a little bit, everybody. Let's fucking reel it in. That's that's all I'm saying. Everybody needs to fucking calm the fuck down.
Hey, you know what'll calm you down?
What up?
A fucking vacation.
Oh, yeah. I need to do that.
Vacations. I think everyone needs to take vacations. And I understand everyone does not have the same luxury to take vacations. But I'm also all about, like, vacation as a mindset, right?
I'm always
So I do
on
want to get our
vacation.
listeners, I know, see? I want to get our listeners prepared that this is not the last time you'll hear about guns, because I do believe, shout out to longtime loyal listener Dusty Drake, it is still my intention that he and I are going to go hunting, or at very least go watch some fucking elk fuck in the woods, some elk porn, come
Right.
back to you all and report back. But eventually the purpose is to go and shoot them with guns. I think anyways, I don't know. Maybe I signed up for some hand-to-hand and combat with elk. I'm just not sure yet. But longtime listener Dusty Drake and I are definitely going to come back and talk hunting. If I can get him to come back and talk hunting. Otherwise, I'll come back and talk hunting. I also have to let you guys all know that I haven't figured out how this toy works, but Dusty Drake also gifted a sound card, I will say, that does all kinds of fun things. It has like a soundboard with different sounds on it, and possibly the ability to like do some fun voice changing. So you guys might hear that coming up soon. I will say also that all of the instructions look like they are in Japanese. So first I have to learn Japanese.
So we're going to deep fake some.
So we're going to deep fake some shit pretty soon, but I have to learn Japanese first. So
Got it.
once I learn Japanese, we'll come back to you with that. So thank you, Dusty Drake, for the gift to the show. Thank you also in advance for coming on and talking hunting and more gun talk. And back to the comment that we all just need vacations, whether you're going hunting for that vacation or just going to go do absolutely nothing whatsoever in Mexico. And there's zero stories for me to share with everyone about Mexico. But let's just agree that I survived it, because here I am.
I was going to say, some of the off-air conversations that you and I were having about Mexico, yeah, I think that is evidence to the capacity to commit evil by any human being.
I mean,
Because I didn't
look.
even share to you a similar story that I had when I was in Vegas.
And we both went to places where what happens there stays there.
Right.
However, some of my stories took place before we ever even made it to Mexico. So those were considered fair game.
Oh, okay.
Is how I felt.
Gotcha. Yes. Are you going to share any of those here?
Okay, so let's just be clear. It is a good 3-ish hour drive from Phoenix to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Which is beautiful, by the way, everybody. I highly recommend it. There's a few hurdles you got to hop through or jump through to get there if you're me and my travel partner.
Whoop.
And things we were just not expecting. And by we, I mean me. So the individual who will remain anonymous for their safety and security
They don't get an on-air alias like everybody else?
No, I mean, let me think about this one. We actually realized after we came back that fake names were not created and should have been. Why I was just tossing around my business card left and right, I don't know, but it's a bad move. Anyways.
Yeah, your business card's not my business card. My business card's vague and just has social media links on it.
My business card literally, this is where I live. This is all my phone numbers. This is what time I go to bed. Like, it's literally got everything. Anyways, I only had a few of those, and so those got tossed around. Yeah, so my travel partner, I was gonna call my travel partner
Wanda.
Carlos, but Wanda.
Wanda.
Yeah, Wanda.
If you want to make it Wanda for our Mexico trip, that's fine.
Wanda. Yeah, Wanda. Yep. So Wanda and I hit the road, and Wanda was under the weather, but rallying and gonna make this work. So we balls to the wall this. Mind you, 0 balls, technically, physiologically, but plenty of balls between the two of us, figuratively. And what I knew about Wanda, because I've known Wanda for quite some time, but was not expecting, is that Wanda is a fainter.
Okay.
Meaning Wanda faints.
Yeah.
But not just randomly. Things usually have to occur to make Wanda faint. And, but I don't know what those things are. And we didn't cover those things because I thought we were going to be just fine, even though we left with Wanda saying, I'm under the weather, but we're going to make it. And I'm like, cool, let's do this. So it was me, Wanda, and Wanda's tiny little ass dog. We'll call him Taquito Bruce. Who owned me the entire trip, let's just be clear.
That's awesome.
And we hit the road, and we're close to Mexico, the border, but not quite. And there's this border patrol checkpoint that you would have to drive through on your way coming out of Mexico, like coming back into the United States, but not on your way down there. It's like a 2-point system, and so they don't care what you're taking into Mexico. If you're the U.S. Border Patrol, they care about you when you're coming back. And we're approaching, and Wanda is coughing up a lung or 7. And that's fine, because she had made it very clear. A little sick. Cool, no problem. We're good.
Definitely don't international travel or anything like that during a pandemic.
It's fine. Like, whatever that is, let's go spread it in another country. We're
Great.
Fine.
It's not
What are you
monkeypox.
talking about? It wasn't like we didn't know about those yet. And so, or we started it. One of the two.
For the record, it is May 25th.
For the record, let's date stamp this, May 25th. And we were in Mexico like 2 weeks ago now. Anyways, she flips on the AC in the car. She's driving. It's her car.
Oh, this is an interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
It flips on the AC hardcore. Like,
so the fainter
blowing
is
some
who shouldn't
cool
have her
ass-
dog.
Well, yeah, but nobody
driving.
cares about a fainter because they don't faint while they're driving, right? So
that
we're
how
like
that works?
approaching this area that is like just very federal. Let's just say that, and official looking.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden she's blasting AC and starts fanning herself with her hand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, Wanda, what's going on over there? She's like, well, I think I'm going to faint. And I was like,
Jesus.
I think you're driving right now. So and she goes, I also have to pee. And I go, okay, which one is it? Do you have to pee or do you have to faint? Because you're driving right now. I don't care if you piss yourself while you're driving, but I do kind of care if you faint while you're driving. And she's fanning herself, and she's like, do you think we can stop at this Border Patrol area to pee? And no is the answer to that, 100%. It is one of these like pop-up tents in the middle of the fucking desert. There is no place to fucking pee at this federal checkpoint that you don't stop at if you don't have to, or you look fucking suspicious. And I was like, no, I think you're going to have to make it to the next small little town, literally like 15 minutes away.
Yeah.
And she is fanning herself, and she is fanning herself. She's like, I'm going to faint. I'm going to faint. I was like, okay, this whole fainting thing. Because she's like, did I tell you I'm a fainter? I was like, oh, I know this about you, but like, it's not common. So, like, how real is this fainting thing? And she's like, well, I feel like I'm going to faint. I'm like,
You're pushing like play a game of fucking chicken at the federal checkpoint.
Are you going to faint while driving? Because, like, isn't there an override where your body's like, you know what? Fainting while driving would be a really bad idea. So we're going to survive through this. Mm-hmm. And she goes, nope, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm like, well, shit. Okay. So we are just now through this checkpoint thing. We don't have to stop. We just keep driving. Because, again, they don't stop you on that direction down. And I'm trying to find, we are like less than 100 feet, probably, maybe yards, whatever, not far from this checkpoint. And I'm like, okay, pull over here. There's less cactus because we're in the motherfucking desert. Pull over here. Just stop the car so you don't faint while you're driving. Like, I'm going to effing drive at this point.
Yeah.
She puts the car in park, jumps out of the car. So she's wearing like this long dress, but like spaghetti straps. And she pops out. Now, mind you, the cars coming northbound through the checkpoint have to stop because it's a checkpoint. So there's cars on that side stopping. She don't care. She has now popped a squat, like in front of the car, hiked up her dress, pulled down her underwear. I can tell all of this because it's not in Mexico yet, FYI, and just starts pissing. And I'm like, oh, okay, good. So she's pissing, not fainting. I'm waiting to see her pass out in her piss at this point. I'm like, if this bitch faints, I'm going to Mexico. I'll pick her up on my way back. Easily the Border Patrol will find her. Mind you, I am a great friend, FYI, and so much so that I was not going to waste the Airbnb, which is why I was willing to leave her. She would want it that way. So I pop out of the car because I'm like, well, maybe little Bruce, Taquito Bruce, needs to go for a piss too at this point. I don't. I'm good. And so I pop out, and she's still squatting right there for the world to see her, including Border Patrol, and just pissing away.
Jesus.
And she starts yelling, Dick. And I'm like, oh my God, what? And she's like, get the bacon. And I was like, okay, get the bacon. She's like, it's in the trunk. Here's where all of a sudden it goes through my brain that I am going to Mexico with Juanda and have no idea what she has put in this car that we're taking across the border.
Maybe that would explain why she's getting ready to faint.
Apparently there's bacon in there, which not questionable, but questionable. And I said, okay, I'm going to go to the trunk and I'm going to go find the bacon. I start digging through the trunk. I find some cheese. Nope, that's not bacon. Some salami. Nope, not bacon either.
A whole fucking
Some
charcuterie
eggs.
board.
Eggs. Yep, not the bacon. A bag of makeup in there. I'm like, well, that doesn't look like bacon either. And she's yelling, Dick, the bacon. And I'm like, well, shit's getting real over here. I should hurry up and find this bacon all the way at the bottom of this bag, by the way. Mm-hmm. I pull out the bacon and I walk the bacon. Should have run. Walked the bacon over to her, still squatting, still 100% in squat. And she grabs the bacon from my hand very aggressively and shoves it down between her tits in this dress she's wearing. So very exposed. And she is just holding bacon on her tits at this point. Nice tits, by the way. And it's a part
titty
of the story.
bacon.
Yeah, so she's got titty bacon happening right now.
Loving some titty bacon.
She then stands up, hikes up her underwear, drops her dress, walks back around to the driver's seat. I'm confused by that move. Gets back in the car. I'm like, well, okay, Taquito Bruce, guess we're getting back in the car too. So we get in the car, and her eyes are closed, and she goes, Dick, get me a Triscuit. It's like, okay, a Triscuit. I did see those in the trunk. So I went and grabbed her a Triscuit.
Uh-huh.
Fed her a Triscuit. And then her eyes popped back open. She sits back up, starts the car, and says, okay. Still holding bacon on her tits. Pulls back onto the road and says, okay, I think we're ready to go. Whoa. What? And she's like, oh, yeah. I said, are you sure you don't want me to drive? She's like, no. She pulls the bacon out, puts it on the console, and says, let's just leave that there in case I need it again. And I'm like, what? And she goes, oh, yeah, when I'm about to faint, I just need something cold put on my chest. And I was like, bitch, why were you about to faint? And she was like, oh, well, before we left, I took a Sudafed, a Benadryl, a cup of coffee, a cup of tea. I took vitamins, and I didn't eat anything. I didn't know we were having that much fun, or I would have done the same. I was like, why wasn't I offered this cocktail?
Right.
Damn. That was all before we made it to Mexico.
Well, if anybody listens to our Eat This Dick episode, they would hear that you have a similar routine in the morning.
Yeah, and I did have my routine, but my routine doesn't make me faint.
Right.
So we get there, right? We get to Mexico. She's feeling great at this point. Mm-hmm. Bacon sitting on the console. I am stressed the fuck out because I'm like, what?
We gonna make
it to the condo that we're staying in.
Mm-hmm.
And we are like, okay, we're gonna make the most of this day. We are definitely gonna hit the beach immediately because the condo's right on the beach.
Yeah.
And so I was like, you know what? We could all just use a little relaxation at this point. And as we are unpacking the car, Wanda, as you've all seen if you've checked out my Instagram page at this point, brings, and listen to the last episode, definitely brought a Costco-sized bottle of American vodka. So if there's anything you're not supposed to bring to Mexico just as a faux pas, it's a bottle of American vodka. There is nothing less Mexico vacation than American vodka.
Well, it doesn't sound like this is your standard Mexican vacation.
It really isn't. I'm not going to lie. And Wanda knows what she likes, and I ain't going to hate a bitch for what she likes. So we bust out the American vodka because I'm like, I need a drink. Wanda is like, I'm good. I'm not feeling super, like, well, I've been sick, but, like, I've survived this far. And so I pour myself a stiff drink at this point, which is just American vodka in a cup at this point. And I'm just going to hit the beach for the next 4 days. I was like, you'll find me in 4 days because, wow, just getting here was a lot. And I get outside and we are walking towards the beach. Literally, we are an hour in to this Mexico vacation, literally in Mexico. Walking out to the beach. Wind catches my hat. And one thing leads to another, and I have a drink thrown in my face by my own hand.
Nice work.
Literally, I tried to grab my hat with the hand that was holding the vodka, and an hour into this trip, I have thrown a drink in my own fucking face.
Well, it sounds like
so
you
now
two...
I have a face full of vodka. I'm covered in vodka. Saying, fuck it, I'm walking out to the beach right about now. This one's over here dying, ready to faint, carrying around bacon.
2 peas in a pod.
Just in case. And that's how our trip started.
It sounds like you're 2 peas in the pod. And this
Absolutely.
is again, and this is your pitch to me.
Yeah, you should come to Mexico next time with us.
So give me your pitch.
Yeah, that was my pitch. By the way, Mexico's great. And I think the one pending question that I did resolve on the gram was, yes, you can definitely consume the ice because I'm still alive to tell about it. And I consumed so much ice.
Bullshit.
Oh, my God.
Bullshit.
I did. So much ice.
I hope you felt good taking
I
it
also
from all
consumed a lot
the
of sand.
locals.
I consumed a lot of sand as well.
Jesus.
A lot of sand and ice was consumed.
The fuck?
Look, it was very windy.
Did you go to Mexico or like a moon around Jupiter? Like what the
amount of sand that I ate.
Jesus. God.
It was obscene. My body might still be recovering from the sand. Here's what I'll tell you all. Go to Mexico. They say don't drink the water. I'm here nor there on that. You can eat the ice. But what I would suggest your body isn't going to be super happy about is eating the sand. So I would refrain from eating the sand. No one ever
How'd
says
that bacon treat you?
Oh, I didn't eat any of the bacon, but Juanda consumed all of that bacon. And so then I said, well, shit, Juanda, what happens if you're going to faint on the way home? What are we going to do? So we stopped at a fish market and she bought a bag of clams.
Nice.
I know. But they were in jeopardy because we went across the first Border Patrol checkpoint, like the actual one on the border.
Mm-hmm.
And they quiz you like 13 times there. And we were just not good at being quizzed. Let me just be clear about that. And so the first question was, did you purchase anything in Mexico? And we've got a bag of clams sitting in the back seat.
Yep.
And I'm like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. Because if you faint and I don't have those clams, we're all going to die. So like for the sake of our lives, lie to Border Patrol right now. So we 100% lied. Because we didn't want to have to explain that the clams were not for consumption anyways. And then we get past that and we have to go to this next guy. We pass that test, right? Because we're feeling very tested at this point.
And now you got to drive up to the one
guy.
that you pissed in front of.
Well, no, we're not even there yet. This is all still right at the border. Then we have to drive to another guy and he roll down the window and he's like, hey, have you guys ever driven through this machine? And there's like a machine in front of us that we're going to have to drive through, but like nothing says what it is.
Right.
So it feels like a trick question. So, and we're smart asses, Juanda and I both. Like Juanda and Dick, wow, watch out. And so we look at him and we're like, well, not that we're aware of, but we don't know what the machine is that you're referring to. And he says, well, obviously you've never driven through it before. I'm like, well, you couldn't say that because I don't know what it is. So I'm like trying to have a conversation here, but that's cool. You're Border Patrol. Awesome. He's like, it's an X-ray machine. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, it's going to X-ray the car. Don't worry. It's safe because it's not powerful enough to detect people, because he's trying to make me feel good about the radiation that I'm about to get by driving through this.
Yeah.
At which point, Don and I look at each other and go, see, we were right about all that human trafficking you can do down in Mexico. Because you just told me the X-ray machine ain't finding humans.
Right.
Don't worry, everyone. We did not human traffic anyone. We just acknowledged that it's probably an easy place to do that based on our experience. Nonetheless, he says it's not going to detect any humans, so you're safe, you're fine. But we do have to ask a couple questions. Okay. Do either of you have a pacemaker? Well, Juanda and I don't like answering questions without looking at each other first, because why wouldn't that be awkward?
Right.
So Juanda and I make sure we make eye contact with each other first, and then in unison answer no.
Jesus Christ.
Then the second question comes.
It's like a
And
scene in a
the
movie.
second question is, look, the two of us, I'm saying, the second question is, are either of you pregnant? This also requires us to make eye contact with each other again, like in a movie, pause extra long, and respond in unison, we hope not.
Jesus.
At which point, the Border Patrol guy slightly laughs, also isn't sure what to do, and then I go, look, you're a Border Patrol agent on the border coming back from Rocky Point. How can you expect any other answer other than, we hope not, to that question? He then acknowledged that was fair. We then drove through an X-ray machine, and then we were told we were fine and allowed to go. Here's where I wanted to stop and prolong the situation, though. They took pictures of us and this car, okay, these X-ray pictures. We didn't get copies of those pictures. And I said, why isn't the Border Patrol trying to make money off of this? Like when you go to Six Flags or any amusement park and you go on the roller coaster and they snap your photo making funny faces. And then that's free to do because they already took the picture. If you want it printed, you can pull over to the right over here and pay to get the X-ray picture of you and the car coming back from Rocky Point. Why are they not selling me my X-ray photo if I'm willing to pay for it? Think
Missed
about that.
opportunity.
Total missed opportunity. So we're putting it here on the podcast right now that the Border Patrol needs to start a photo booth, total side operation. that if I want to buy my x-ray photo of my car, I should be able to pull off to the right and pay for it. As long as I wasn't smuggling drugs.
No, even if you were, you could still, yeah.
But people are fine because it can't detect people.
I feel like even if you did commit a crime, you should still be allowed to purchase your photo.
Oh, yeah, I agree. At least your lawyer should be able to.
I mean, you got to have something to decorate your cell.
I'm just saying.
Like, why are you here? This is why I'm here.
I know, right? Look what I did. Yeah. So, Mexico, amazing. T, we are going to have to make it a point by the end of this year. We're recording an episode from Mexico.
By the end of this year. Ooh. I got to go get my passport.
Get your passport.
My goodness.
Please. You got time.
All right.
End of this year, listeners. Sorry, this was a longer than usual episode, but that's because I had to bring it back to take vacations. Don't shoot each other. Go to fucking Mexico. And if you want to go to Mexico with me, hit me up on social. I'll bring the vodka.
I'm Dick Francisco on Twitter. We are at CTS Terry on Twitter. And you can find Dick at the Dick Francisco on Instagram. And you may find the show by searching for the Catch the Sky podcast on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to like and subscribe for ad-free listening every week. Again, our condolences go out to the people of Robb Elementary School down in Texas. And that goes for the shooter's grandmother as well, whom he shot in the face before stealing her car and taking it to Robb Elementary. So she now has to live with the fact that her grandson shot her in the face, and now she has to listen to all the horrible things that are being directed towards her and her family for what her grandson chose to do. So not only her, but all of the victims and friends, family, cousins, everybody who are going to have to live with the aftershock of this incident for the rest of their lives. In fact, a husband of one of the teachers that we lost this week just passed away because of a broken heart. I mean... Which
is all of us. I mean, we all feel this, for sure. My workplace put out an email today saying if, people needed some help, because it affects all of us, because you think about your own children and your own loved ones, that this could happen to anyone. So
that's
why... We really...
Yep. I just want to end the violence here.
We both agree on that, T.
All right. And if you have any thoughts or opinions on this episode, feel free to comment and join the conversation. And until next week, keep trying to fix the